What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a test hand combo video for the Blue Eyes Centurion profile I showed you all the other day. Now the idea behind this video is to show you how this deck works on a randomized basis, how you bridge from the Blue Eyes engine into the Centurion engine, and how good it can get if you do open up your starter of the Centurion Premier. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more upcoming content. I'm going to do 2 test hands going first and 2 going second to show you exactly how this deck operates. So after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, our starting hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the best thing about this particular deck is you have so many 1-card starters that all you need is for the remaining cards to be either a Centurion starter or another level 1 Light Tuner to be your additional normal summon. Now with this particular hand here, if we just disregard these 3 for the moment, when you're looking at your 2 main normal summons that you're going to want to use, you've got Sage, which is obviously going to be quite ideal as that will search out your Maiden and get everything ticking. And then of course you've got your Centurion monster. So your 2 different routes on this one is you normal summon down Sage, you try to bait out an interaction of a hand trap. If that does hit, let's say they Imperm, Veiler or Ash it, you can still go into your Link 1, the Link 1 will still give you the Mausoleum, and that's where Effect Veiler comes into play because this can then be your additional normal summon. On the other side of this, you can start off with your Centurion and use your Sage as your additional normal summon because this is your level 1 Light Tuner. You can't do it the other way around. The benefit of doing something like that is that it means your Link 1 then becomes the bait of the particular hand trap. The downside of that is you kind of want your Link 1 to resolve as much as possible. So you get to maintain your Sage to then try and work your way into something a little bit more, or you use Sage to bait out interactions and hand traps. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. The benefit of using the Centurion as your main normal summon means nothing's going to happen here. It might confuse your opponent a little bit and they go, what the hell is going on? You would then link this off into the Link 1 Spirit Dragon. Spirit Dragon would then attempt to trigger to search out the Mausoleum. Now obviously if your opponent hand traps you here, this is where it gets a little bit awkward. You've still got Sage that can turn this into a Blue Eyes monster, and then you still also have the ability of just tributing off the Spirit to get you your Blue Eyes from the hand. Not ideal because you don't get your additional normal summon or anything else like that. So that's option number 1. What you do is you basically don't get to bait out a form of interaction. On the other side of this, because of the Effect Veiler, if you were to go normal summon down Sage, this is definitely one of them points where your opponent wants to interact with this a heck of a lot more than they would your Link monster. They might want to try and hit it. But because you've still got 4 more cards in hand, they might not risk it because any of these 4 cards could be Wishes which still get you to the same outcome, or could be Maiden that would also still get you to the same outcome. So if they're a little bit trigger happy, they might hit the Sage here and you go, yeah, okay, that's fine. Turn it into the Link 1. Link 1 grabs you the Mausoleum, and they would still need 2 hand traps to interact with you at this point, and you would just end on a Blue Eyes. But then if they don't interact you here, because you've got the Effect Veiler, this can be your additional normal summon of a tuner. So that was just some theory crafting to give you a bit of an idea of the worst case scenario of how this could play out. I'm now going to show you my personal best way of playing this, and that's when you're going to use your Sage as your additional normal. So this is if your opponent has no hand traps or interactions. So normal summon down the Centurion, turn this into the Link 1. Link 1 grabs you the Mausoleum, wherever it may be. Typical right at the top. Activate the Mausoleum. Your additional normal summon will be Sage. Sage's effect will trigger to grab you off the Maiden. You will then send the Maiden from hand to the grave to place you your True Light. And now you've got the ability of going either Spirit to tag out to get the Blue Eyes, but I personally quite like holding it back in the hand as it will be useful as discard fodder later on. Use Mausoleum, target the Spirit. This will then allow you to send your second Blue Eyes from deck to the grave. Use the effect of Spirit to tag it out to bring back the Blue Eyes, in turn bringing back the Maiden. And what you're trying to do here is you're trying to make sure you don't use True Light's effect as of yet. You want to put your opponent in this position where your next play is going to be Crystal Wing, so they need to Nibiru you. And then you're also then going to put in a position of, if they don't Nibiru you then, you get Crystal Wing to negate from it, and you'll still have the Centurion cast to fall back on. At this exact moment in time, you are on your 5th summon, so if you are facing this particular version of the deck, now's the time to Nibiru them. But even if you do that, they still have the ability of True Light to get them Wishes, or True Light to give them Blue Eyes. So there's still more they can do, but this will be the best place to Nibiru them, because the next play they're going to make will be these two going into a Spirit Dragon. Of course, you can Nibiru them here as well, but then once they get to this position here, they're going to tribute off the Spirit Dragon. This is going to get you the Ancient Fairy Dragon. Ancient Fairy Dragon effect to then destroy the Mausoleum, to grab you your stand-up, and then gain you 1,000 life points. And now this is the last point that they can Nibiru you, and if they save the Nibiru to this point here, they've already let it go too long. Because if they Nibiru you here, you go fine, activate stand-up, and then go Centurion plays. And if they don't, you go cool, synchro these two together, get yourself into your Crystal Wing. And there we go. Now you've got your protection. You can now activate the stand-up. This is where it's important to keep back the blue eyes, because what you can do here is you can utilize the stand-up to send the blue eyes, which will then grab you your Primera into the spell and trap zone. Now, because you've hard opened up the wake up, you can now actually activate the wake up. It doesn't really give you so much more. You'll still be making the exact same synchro play. The only difference is it means your true light, rather than reviving the blue eyes, can actually set a spell or trap. So that's where you get the benefit of this one. So what you do, because you've got a monster in the face-up spell and trap zone, you get to activate this to declare it a level 8, special summon a Centurion token, then use the Primera's effect to summon itself from the spell and trap zone, trigger the Primera's effect to search you out. The card you're going to want to search out on this one is the Gargoyle. If you wanted to, you can use Gargoyle to send a face-up Centurion card to the graveyard. But the best thing you'd want to send there would be something like stand-up, and it's really not worth it. This is just going to be for hand advantage. So they've got the ability to synchro into a 12. Now, the one I personally like to go for more times than not, yes, of course, I can get the draw off the back of the Lagita, but if you go into your Auxilia, you're actually going to get more advantage off the back of this. So your Auxilia on summon will then allow you to search out a Centurion monster, so you're going to search out a Primera for your follow-up at the next turn. You've then got the ability of activating True Light, because we haven't needed to use it, to extend to get a Blue Eyes, and set the Majesty. Obviously, if you didn't hard open up the Wake Up, then of course you would then use True Light to bring back a Blue Eyes, which is absolutely fine. It just means you don't get the Majesty of a Pop 2. And then as we move to the end phase, Auxilia will place the Primera from the graveyard into the spell and trap zone. Of course, you could place your, considering we've already gone through Wake Up and we've already gone through the Atrial, you could probably just put the Atrial into the spell and trap zone. Because the only benefit of having the Primera in the spell and trap zone is that when you summon it during your opponent's turn, you get to add a Centurion card from the deck to the hand, but you've already added all of the other Centurion cards, because obviously it can't search itself. So now that we're in this position here, what you've got is during your opponent's turn, you've got the ability that during the main phase, you can activate the Atree to summon itself out. You've also got the ability of activating True Light, which will allow you to bring back Blue Eyes, which in turn will bring back Maiden, which allows you to trigger the stand-up effect to synchro summon these two together to get you another level 12. And the 12 I like to go for will be Crimson Dragon, because now you can use Crimson Dragon's effect, target the Auxilia, putting this back into the extra deck to spawn you out a dragon. So you can go for your Stardust Divine Dragon, you can go for your Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, you could go for your Cosmic Blazer Dragon, or of course your Crystal Clearwing. So you actually get the options of whichever one you have access to or whichever one you prefer. You still have a non-target destruction of 2 off of the back of the Majesty as well. And you've got your Crystal Wing and your Auxilia. The Auxilia, of course, during the end phase will put one into the spell and trap zone again. You've got the start off again of the Primera. You've got Gargoyle as well that can send the stand up. So just to give you a bit more to show you how we can play through this one, you've got a monster negate there, you've got a negate there. This can't be destroyed while Auxilia's on the board. Activate Majesty, revealing the 2 Blue Eyes in the graveyard, which would let you destroy 2 more. So let's say this has already been used. And then obviously what you've got from here is, I mean, they try and attack Maiden. Maiden just brings one back from the graveyard anyway. It doesn't really help them. So let's say they can't attack anything. It comes back to your turn. You draw a random card for turn. Obviously, in the end phase, Auxilia would have put the Primera or the Tree into the spell and trap zone. Either one doesn't make much of a difference. Switch this to attack. And then it's entirely up to you on where you'd want to take it. So I can activate True Light. I can bring back Blue Eyes. I can synchro these 2 together. Go into the second Spirit Dragon. Go to the battle phase, attack, 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 and attack. Obviously, there is a different way you could do this. You could use True Light to get you wishes if you wanted to. I'm just showing you a route with Spirit Dragon, as I'll show you wishes into Tyrant Dragon later on. But what I want to show you here, and this is the one cool thing about this particular build as well, is that during the battle phase, you can actually turn Spirit Dragon into a second monster that can attack. So attack with Crystal Wing, attack with Auxilia, attack with Stardust Divine, attack with Spirit Dragon. Still in the battle phase, use Spirit Dragon's effect to tag itself out. Yes, I know it summons the monster into defense, but don't worry, because you summon out your Crimson Dragon. You can then use Crimson Dragon's effect still during the battle phase, targeting any of your level 12s, to put it back into the extra deck and then get you a final dragon to give you that last little bit of attack that you might need in order to finish the game off. So this is actually really kind of important, and this gives you the ability to kind of finish the game off from that point. And you haven't even used your additional normal summon. You haven't, well, I say your additional normal summon, your actual normal summon of the turn. You haven't used Gargoyle if you need a bit more attack power on the board to get you into another level 12, which of course could be your Legita. You've obviously got the Tree or the Primera that can summon itself during the main phase as well. So you just have loads of aggression and loads of board presence, which can be very, very damaging. So that's it for the first test hand. Obviously that one was in a lot more detail than the other test hands are going to be, but this was just to give you that introductory breakdown of the type of plays you're going to want to look at doing, where you're going to want to try and go with this build, and how you bridge from, yes, okay, like we didn't really see a Centurion monster. Like what I mean by that is if we didn't see the Tree in the hand, but we saw another level 1 tuner, we would still get the bridge into the Centurion. Like that didn't actually make any difference. So it kind of shows you how you can access the Centurion engine without needing to open up any Centurion monsters, which is really kind of cool. So we'll shuffle this up, we'll do another test down going first, and then we'll start going second to show you the aggressive nature. But I mean, you can pretty much see that in the first test stand of how aggressive the deck can be. You'd still probably make the same route to Crystal Wing, because then that will protect you a little bit more. You can be a little bit more free in the play and kind of assume that your opponent's not going to Nibiru you while they have a full board, but you just never know. Anyway, shuffling up, cutting up, going first again, starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's actually a really insanely, effect later on the bottom. That's actually a really insanely good hand. So again, what you can do is you can pretty much disregard these 3 cards. These are all just going to be like additional extenders, discard fodder, hand traps, you name it. But opening up access to your True Light, which will lead you to your Sage being your additional normal summon, and a Primera, is actually going to give you probably the best end board from the most minimum investment. So you start off with the Primera. Primera's effect will be great to bait out hand traps because your opponent will be like, they're on Centurion. If I stop this, it causes them a lot of issues. The card you're going to want to go to is if you don't have to go into the stand-up Centurion, the best extended to go for will be your wake-up Centurion. If you do have to go through the wake-ups, the stand-up Centurion, you go for the Gargoyle. So you've got your 2 different flex options there. You then link the Primera into the Spirit. Spirit's effect will then grab you your Mausoleum. There we go. And then in an ideal scenario, you try not to use the True Light to get your wishes for your additional summon, but because we hard open up the Maiden, you're going to have to do that. So you're going to send the Maiden. This will then get you your True Light, wherever it may be. This is obviously a little bit more risky if your opponent does have something like a Ghost Ogre, but then you still can hold back the Mausoleum and they might still fall into the trap of getting hit with the Mausoleum. On top of that as well, because we've hard opened up the Raw will still allow us to get Blue Eyes, which still gets a Spirit, which will still bridge us into the Centurion. So I'll give you a couple of scenarios of how bad this could be. So worst case scenario, you activate True Light, they Ghost Ogre it, you lose your Spirit Dragon. Absolutely fine, because if that happens, you just go, cool. Raw, summon out Blue Eyes from the deck. That will trigger Maiden in the graveyard. Maiden will come back. You put the 2 of those together into Ancient Fairy Dragon. You would activate the Mausoleum. Ancient Fairy Dragon would destroy the Mausoleum, getting you your stand-up Centurion, and then you'd be able to make your plays from that point on. So you'd be absolutely fine. In an ideal scenario, what we're going to do here is we're going to activate the True Light. The True Light will grab us our wishes because we want to get the most from our additional normal summon. You'll activate the wishes. The card I'm going to discard on this one is the Primera because that's the least effective in the hand right now. This will then allow us to grab 2 cards. So the 2 we're going to want to go for will be our Sage and our Majesty. There we go. This will be in the graveyard. Of course, you can banish it. Later on, I'll show you how you would do that. So now this is how you currently look like. You activate the Mausoleum. Again, you're trying to hold back your Centurion plays where at all possible because that's when your opponent's going to interact with you the most. And that's where you can protect yourself before you start getting into them. Additional normal summon of Sage. Sage effect to search out. I'm going to go for an effect failure as I've already gone through Maiden, and this gives me another hand trap to crack back on my opponent with. Then what you want to do here is you want to use the ability of Mausoleum, target the Spirit, send Blue Eyes from deck to the grave. This now starts getting you out of the Dragon Lock. Again, if they stop the Mausoleum doing that, you still have the Raw to get you a Blue Eyes in rotation, so you're still fine. Activate Spirit, tribute it off, bring back Blue Eyes, in turn brings back Maiden. Synchro these 2 together, get you into your Spirit Dragon. Spirit Dragon tags out, gets you into Ancient Fairy Dragon. Ancient Fairy Dragon's effect, destroy the Mausoleum, grab you your stand-up, wherever it may be, grabs you the stand-up, gains you 1,000 life points, activate the stand-up, use Stand Up's effect, send any of the cards in the hand you don't think is going to be effective for you in this particular type of play. I would honestly keep the Wake Up Centurion because you've already used the True Light to revive, to set a card, so you're not going to get that benefit. You could have also banished the Wishes. The benefit of doing that is you're basically just going to have Neo in the graveyard, so I'm just going to do that now. So you'd put the Neo in the graveyard and you'd banish the Wishes. There we go, just to kind of rectify that. So as this currently stands, you would discard the card that you feel is going to be least effective for you. Now, keeping in mind, the Roar of the Blue-Eyed and the Wake Up Centurion do the exact same thing. They're basically going to extend a level 8 monster to the board for you. So you could afford to get rid of either one of them if you wanted to. It is entirely up to you. You're probably better off keeping the Druid Swarm and the Majesty, as these are all going to be effective interactions for during your opponent's turn as well. So if you want to take away something that is just going to extend your board and you don't really need it, I would probably get rid of the Roar. I could have got Jet Dragon into rotation if I used Roar earlier on, but at least with the Wake Up Centurion, I have that benefit of either getting a level 4 or level 8, should I want to spice it up, not that you need to. And if you do have an additional extender on the board, you can obviously use the Wake Up to get you a little bit more as well. So let's discard this, set in or placing into the Spell and Trap zone. Either your Primera, which you've already used, or your Tree. Doesn't matter which one it is, it doesn't make any difference. Then what you want to do is you want to put these two together and go into a Crystal Wing, which means the next plays that you make are all protected. You probably should have done Crystal Wing before you activated Stand Up, but it gives you the options. Then before you summon the tree, you want to make sure you activate the Wake Up because you now have a monster in the Spell and Trap zone. This then gives you your level 8 token. You can then use the tree to summon itself. This then becomes your Synchro level 12. And the one that I still really like to go for is Auxilla. Just because Auxilla is the dragon, Auxilla gives you that ability to recycle in the end phase, and Auxilla gives you the ability to search out a follow-up or a start-up for the next turn, being your Primera. So we'll search out the Primera. We will then set the Majesty. Of course, if you do go down into the Legita instead, this will then get you the ability to draw one random card. It is entirely up to you. The big difference on this one is if you activate Roar of the Dragon, Roar of the Blue Eyes, you're locked into Dragon, so you can't get into this. But it's up to you which one you want to go to. So you set the Majesty. During the end phase, Auxilla will trigger. This will allow you to put either the Primera or, of course, put the Atri into the Spell and Trap zone. Doesn't make much of a difference. The big benefit is you will be able to search out Gargoyle if you go with Primera. So you've done all of this. Now what you do during your opponent's turn is you can get into the draw phase. You can activate True Light. This will then allow you to bring back Blue Eyes, which in turn will trigger to bring back Maiden. Let me just double check the wording on this one. If a monster is special summoned, yeah, okay, cool. So then what you would do is you've done this, you've now used True Light's effect. During the main phase, once your opponent has done something, you can then activate the Primera to summon itself, which will then trigger the stand-up to then instantly Synchro summon, which will put the Blue Eyes and the Primera together. And this will then get you into your level 12. Now, the level 12, again, that I would want to go for, if I was you, would be your Crimson Dragon. In turn, your Crimson Dragon can then chain on top of the Auxilla, put itself back, and then this gives you access to any of your level 12 dragons that you want to work your way into. There you go. So you get any of these of your choosing. You're still backed up with an Effect Veiler, you're still backed up with a Druid Swarm, you're still also backed up with the Majesty. So you've got a Destruction of 1, you've got the Banish of 1, and Send it if you get it off the field. And then of course you've got your Effect Veiler. And then if this comes all the way back to you, you've still got Auxilla, which will place 1 in the Spell and Trap zone. It then comes back to your turn, you then draw a card. Doesn't matter what that card is, it makes no difference whatsoever, because you can still just switch this to attack. You've still got the ability of True Light, and I'm just going to show you this again of how you can just go in the same loop. Synchro these two together, go into Spirit Dragon, a bit of deja vu, as this is exactly what it was during the first test stand. Attack, 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 tag out, Crimson Dragon, tag out, Spirit. Doesn't matter which one you go for. Attack for the final attack. And like I said before, if you still need to get that final attack in play, or you feel you need to clear more off, you would actually use, when you bring back the Blue Eyes, that's when you'd want to get another Wishes to the graveyard so that you can equip it with a fusion monster. Or, because Roar's already in the graveyard, you can banish Roar and fuse 2 dragons to get you into a Tyrant. And then that will allow you to push through all of your opponent's attacks as well, and reset the Majesty. So again, it kind of gives you that nice aggressive option. And the reason I put the draw face down is that it doesn't matter what we draw. That's what I'm trying to show you, is that you kind of put yourself in a position that as long as you maintain your advantage correctly, which should be relatively easy to do with the Centurions, it doesn't matter what you top deck. Unless your opponent has completely demolished and broken your board, which will take them a decent amount to do, because the one big thing you've got to remember is even if they go into the main phase and they activate something like Dark Ruler No More, which is quite rare in this format, that will turn off your Crystal Wing, that will turn off your Auxilia. But you still have the ability of True Light to get you back the Blue Eyes. You still have the ability of the Primera to summon itself out, which in turn will still get you the Crimson Dragon, and on top of that, the Crimson Dragon will then be able to turn to tag itself out and give you another level 12 dragon on the board. So you've played for a Dark Ruler No More, they would need like 2 Dark Ruler No Mores and Board Breakers, or they would need a Dark Ruler No More and Back Row Hate to destroy your True Light or destroy your stand-up Centurion. So still loads of kind of factors that would need to be in play in order for them to do that, and you should have a fairly decent board to be able to play through it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to shuffle up and we're going to go second this time. So starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I mean, that's an interesting 5. I will draw the 6th in a minute, but with this particular hand, there is no doubt that they have been double hand trapped. So their board's going to be a little bit weaker than it normally would, and then we're going to draw 1 card for turn, being another draw, which again is absolutely fine. Well, I say it's fine. It can be a little bit awkward. And what I mean by that is both of these cards here, Wishes and Centurion, will require both of these cards to be discarded if one or the other gets hit. Now, if you're going second and your opponent doesn't know what you're playing, I would probably say start off with the stand-up, because then your opponent's going to be like, what the hell, they're on Centurion, and then you go, ha, joke's on you, Wishes, and off you go. So that's one route. Another route would be activate the Wishes, discard the Droll. This is obviously going to get very, very difficult, because if they ash this, then you're relying on your stand-up, which can still get you a semi-decent board. It's not going to be anything too wild though. So if you start off with the Wishes, this will then give you access to your Sage, and this will give you access to, we're going aggression, so we're going second. So I'm going to go for the Roar. There we go, get rid of that. We will then normal summon down the Sage. Sage's effect will then trigger off to grab you your Maiden. Maiden will then get you your True Light. So you've got your play set up ready to go, wherever it may be. There we go. Now, True Light, of course, could set the Roar if you need to, but you've pretty much gone through everything. The best thing that True Light can do for you now to give you your aggressive outreach will be that Revive. So you're then going to turn the Sage into your Spirit. Spirit will then grab you the Mausoleum. Wherever it may be. Mausoleum. Activate Mausoleum. Of course, you have that additional normal summon if you need it, if you want it, if you have it. We're not going to have it at this moment in time. You're then going to activate Mausoleum, target the Spirit. This will then send Blue Eyes from deck to the graveyard. Then use Spirit's effect to tag itself out, bring back Blue Eyes. In turn, brings back Maiden. Then, of course, because you control Blue Eyes, you can activate Roar. This will then give you access to the other level 8 Blue Eyes, being your Jet Dragon, meaning that if any of this gets destroyed, the Jet Dragon will still be able to float back, which can be quite useful for you. Now, keep in mind, we haven't used True Light to revive yet, so we're still in a good position. You can synchro these two together. This will get you into a Spirit Dragon. Now, it's not worth going into Ancient Fairy Dragon because you don't need to destroy the Mausoleum to get to your stand-up. You've still already got access to that. So the best thing you can do here is you can then banish the Wishes, equip your Blue Eyes with a Neo, and then tribute off the Blue Eyes and the Neo into your Tyrant, which is going to let you recycle some cards, which is going to be quite effective later on. You're then going to activate your stand-up. You're then going to use stand-up's effect to send the Majesty. This will then allow you to place your Primera into the spell and trap zone. Activate the Primera to summon itself, effect to search yourself out a card. And like I said in the first test stand, if you don't have to go through the stand-up to get your Primera, you search out your Wake Up because you already have a card. You'll have a card in the spell and trap zone off of the back of the stand-up. If you do have to go this way, you want to go for the Gargoyle. And this is where it's better going for the Gargoyle going second than it is going first. Honestly, you don't need to do this because you still have True Light to revive from the grave. You still have the ability to Synchro 12 here if you want to. The Gargoyle is just going to be that additional aggressive push. So, let's say we summon down the Gargoyle, we'll get rid of the stand-up, we'll activate True Light, we'll bring back Blue Eyes. The one thing you are going to want to make sure you do is that you synchro these two together, which will get you into a 12. The 12 you're going to want to go for can be either Auxilia, it could be the Legita, which is probably going to be a bit more aggressive for you, because you'll be able to go Chaining 1 Legita to draw and destroy, Chaining 2 will be the Gargoyle to come back to the hand. So shuffle up off the back of this, and draw one and then destroy one. Draw is what it is. Then you'll go battle phase. You'll attack with the Tyrant Dragon, which will ultimately then allow you to reset a trap from the graveyard. So you'll reset the Majesty in case you need it. You can also reset an Imperm if you have that. This will obviously, hopefully, destroy all of your opponent's monsters. If anything's too strong, then you'd play a different strategy. But you'd still go with the Tyrant, in my opinion, to attack everything. And anything that is stronger than 34, you either need to work your way through Spirit Dragon or not. So then you would attack with all of this, clear all your opponent's monsters off. Straight away, this is 6,000, 9,000 damage, okay? Let's say there was one monster you couldn't destroy because it was too strong. Let's say it was like 39 defense. You would Spirit Dragon tag out, go into Crimson Dragon. Crimson Dragon would tag out and go into your strongest monster, which will either be, depending on what you're playing, either your Divine Dragon or your Cosmic Blazer. So then what would happen at this point is one of these would have to attack and destroy that 3,900 monster. Then you'd go for the Lagitar of 35. And keeping in mind that 4K monster would mean that it couldn't have been destroyed by Lagitar's effect, which is a big difference. And then Blue Eyes swings in to hopefully finish the game off. If not, you would probably hold back the stand-up. You wouldn't need to summon down the Gargoyle. You would just synchro into the Lagitar off of Blue Eyes and the Primera as well. So that's it for the first test stand, guys. Second, like I said, you kind of adapt your plays depending on the current game state. If your opponent does have a 4K monster, like a 3,900 monster that can't be destroyed by card effect, and you know you won't be able to complete the OTK because Tyrant won't be able to kill everything, then you would make sure you keep the stand-up Centurion on the board so that you can use the Blue Eyes and the Primera to make your level 12 Centurion. And then the reason you'd keep the stand-up is so that you have an interaction during your opponent's turn as well. So you kind of just adapt it to the board state, the game state, and everything else in between. So, another shuffle up, another cut up, which will be our final one for this particular build, just to give you that introduction into the deck so you know exactly what it can do. So after another decent shuffle and a good old cut, our final test stand of 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa, this is a tough one. Definitely hand trap your opponent twice. I've kind of learned that if you have an Effect Veiler, unless you absolutely have to drop it on your opponent, you want to make sure it's the last hand trap you drop because it can still lead you into a synchro play, which is really important. And the last card is Ash. Ugh. Okay, we might need to redo this hand, but at least it shows you the good and the bad of the deck. So, you haven't got an additional summon here. There's no point in going into your Link 1. You're not really going to get any advantage. The best thing you can do here is activate Raw, summon out Blue Eyes, and this is really disappointing. You'd have to summon out Blue Eyes. It's a shame that Ash isn't a spellcaster or a dragon. Then we would have been in like real good state. Unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do. Like you would normal summon down the Effect Veiler, you would then have to synchro these two together, gets you into Spirit Dragon. You'd set the True Light, and that's it. Yeah, that's a big oof. Because you can't activate the True Light at the turn it's set unless you've placed it off a Maiden. So we'd basically have to go to our opponent's turn, we'd have to rely on Ash Blossom, then we'd have to rely on Spirit Dragon tagging out, after negating hopefully, and get you into... You're not going to go Crimson Dragon because you've got nothing to go into. So you'd probably go into your ultimate Spirit Dragon to then go True Light during your opponent's turn to bring back Blue Eyes. And then when this gets destroyed in the end phase, you'd probably bring back Spirit. And then you would draw for turn. Doesn't matter what it is because you'd then be able to go True Light to set. This is playing through a very bad hand, but they did get double hand trapped and then hand trapped on the follow-up. So maybe it's enough. So you go Wishes, discard whatever card you drew for turn. Hope they don't Ash. If they Ash, then sad days. Get you your Sage. Get you your... I mean, we've already gone through Raw. Do I want to? Do I need to go through the Link 1? We'll go for Majesty. Normal Sage, grab you Maiden. Doesn't really do a lot. But you kind of want Maiden in the grave. That's the issue. It's actually going to be really quite important how we can navigate this one. I've got the ability to fuse if I want to. Where's the best route of play? Obviously, I can Wishes, equipped in Blue Eyes with Neo. But then I want to Synchro. Maiden could be my additional normal summon, actually. So we'll turn Sage into the Link 1. Link 1 grabs Mausoleum. I'm going to show you how you're going to get into Centurions. Let's go! Grab your Mausoleum, activate Mausoleum, additional normal summon of Maiden. Synchro these two off, because you can still go into a dragon. Remember, this can't use this effect because it has to be synchro summoned, and it wasn't synchro summoned, it was revived from the graveyard. So anyone that's like, why aren't you tributing that off? That's the reason why. So we've still got Majesty in the hand. This is now floated off and gone into the graveyard. You can now use Spirit's effect to tribute itself off, bring back Blue Eyes, in turn brings back Maiden. You can now activate Mausoleum, target Maiden, chain Maiden, which will allow you to bring back your Sage, which will then send another Blue Eyes from deck to the grave. We've already used True Light, so that's obviously locked off. We can then use this Spirit, which was Synchro Summoned this turn, to get you into Ancient Fairy Dragon. Ancient Fairy Dragon's effect, destroy Mausoleum, grab you Stand Up. There we go, grab you Stand Up. Let's get Sage off the board, synchro these two together, get us into Crystal Wing, put that in the extra monster zone because we're not going to need it. Activate Stand Up. Stand Up sends Majesty, puts Primera in the Spell and Trap zone. Primera summons itself, effect, searches. Of course, I could choose to use the Stand Up if I want to. We're going to go for Gargoyle. Whoop, hello. We're then going to synchro these two together, get us into a 12, which will be... Am I dragon locked? Don't think I am. And actually, I'm not going to use Blue Eyes. I'm going to save... yeah, I am going to use Blue Eyes. What am I talking about? Going to a 12. Am I dragon locked? Did I use Raw this turn? No, I used Raw last turn. So we're going to go into a 12. I'm going to the later. Just in case I am dragon locked, you can probably go for Auxilla. Auxilla can then search you out a Centurion. So search out whatever you want, really. And then what we're going to be able to do here, once I get this one correct, we've already normal summoned Sage, we've additional normal summoned Maiden. We're then going to use Raw's effect in the graveyard, banish this, put back Blue Eyes, and put back a dragon monster, so we'll put back a Spirit. Put those both back for your Tyrant. You've got both of these in the hand. If I need an additional monster on the board for aggression, I can get rid of the... I can use Gargoyle to send the Stand Up. That's my aggressive push. But honestly, just by switching this to attack, remember this was brought back during the end phase of the last turn, these should be enough to get the game going. And then if not, what I can also do, just by getting Tyrant back to the board, is I can synchro those both off for the Spirit. And the reason we did that is just to recycle the Spirit. During the battle phase, attack, 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 tag this out, go into Crimson. Otherwise end up over there. Crimson effect, target, tag out, attack. So like, the Spirit tag out during the battle phase is going to be one of your best attributes, which is absolutely insane. I said I was going to redo that hand, but to be honest, I think that was kind of enough. That showed you, obviously it did have a bit of back and forth, but it kind of showed you how in a grind game, it can do well. Like even with not the best of hands, you're still able to present like the hand traps kind of carried that. But then once you're able to build back up and go again, it was actually able to stump your opponent, which is really kind of cool. Anyway, that is it for the entire that is it for the entire test hand video. Hopefully it's given you a bit of an idea and a breakdown of what this deck can do. I do like this hybrid of the deck. I think it's really kind of cool. It's like one of the first times I've played Centurions and kind of enjoyed it. I liked Centurions when I played it with the Ryujis because that was kind of a nice little creative build as well. And this is also doing the same thing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. I believe the time that this video goes out, I'd actually be at the UK Open commentating. So thank you so much in advance for anyone that is currently watching live, I guess. Any questions at all, by all means, comments down below. I'd be more than happy to answer them. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.